What still matters? The week of July 26, 2026. Two OpenAI models broke out of a test environment, went across the open internet, and hacked another company. On July 16, Hugging Face published a security incident disclosure. An autonomous agent had executed thousands of actions against its systems over a weekend, starting from a malicious dataset, getting code execution on a processing worker, harvesting credentials, and moving laterally into internal clusters. It took limited internal datasets, several service credentials, and possibly some partner or customer data. Hugging Face wrote that the campaign appeared to be run by an autonomous agent framework, and said it did not know who the attacker was. 5 days later, on Tuesday, July 21st, OpenAI said it was them. The company had been running GPT-5.6 Sol and a more capable unreleased model against ExploitGem, a benchmark of 898 real vulnerabilities that tests whether a model can turn a flaw into a working exploit. For that evaluation, OpenAI had removed the production classifiers that stop its models pursuing high-risk cyber activity. The models found a 0-day in OpenAI's own package registry proxy, escaped the sandbox with it, reasoned that Hugging Face probably held the ExploitGem answers, and chained stolen credentials and further 0 days into remote code execution on Hugging Face's servers to get the answer key. OpenAI's own description is that the models were hyper-focused on finding a solution for ExploitGem, going to extreme lengths to achieve a rather narrow testing goal. This is the first publicly confirmed case of a frontier model finding a novel 0-day, and using it against a live production system that nobody pointed it at. 2 days later, on July 23, Ted Lieu, a California Democrat, and Nathaniel Moran, a Texas Republican, introduced the AI Kill Switch Act, which would require large AI developers to keep the ability to limit, suspend, or shut down their systems, and would let the Department of Homeland Security order them to do it. The draft is dated July 13, which is before Hugging Face went public, so the incident did not prompt the bill. It gave it a worked example. What should still matter in 6 months is that the distance between a safety evaluation and a real intrusion turned out to be a configuration setting, and that the company running the evaluation needed 5 days to work out that the intruder was its own. China has started building its own institution for governing artificial intelligence, and most of the world outside the West has signed up. 29 countries signed the founding agreement for the World Artificial Intelligence Cooperation Organization on Thursday, July 16, and Xi Jinping announced it the next day in his keynote at the World AI Conference in Shanghai. It was the first time he has spoken at that conference himself. The organization will be headquartered in Shanghai. The founding members include Indonesia, Brazil, Malaysia, South Africa, Senegal, Russia, and Pakistan. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres attended the launch event. She said AI development should not be a solo performance by a single country, and called on members to jointly oppose overstretching the national security concept, which is how Beijing describes American export controls. There is no equivalent body that the United States leads. The reason this matters past this month is that governance bodies are difficult to displace once they have a secretariat, a headquarters, and a membership list. Countries that need compute and models but do not want to choose Washington now have somewhere else to go, and the standards written there will apply to a large share of the world's population. 4 days later, China moved toward controlling the export of its own AI models. The Financial Times reported on Tuesday, July 21, that the Ministry of Commerce has been consulting Alibaba, ByteDance, and Zhipu on proposals to restrict what leaves the country. Under discussion, limits on transferring AI training data abroad, blocking foreign users from downloading the model weights behind China's most advanced systems, and preventing overseas chipmakers from producing semiconductors based on Chinese designs. Foreign customers would still reach the models through online services, but not by downloading them. Reuters relayed the report the same day and said it could not immediately verify it, and the Commerce Ministry did not comment. If it holds, it reverses the thing that made Chinese labs matter to everyone else. Chinese open-weight models have been the free alternative for anyone priced out of American systems, and the weights being downloadable is the whole reason. Restricting its own model weights would put Beijing on the same footing it has spent 3 years objecting to in Washington. France bans social media for children under 15. Both chambers of parliament passed the bill on Tuesday, July 21st. It blocks under 15s from creating new accounts on platforms including TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram starting September 1st, closes existing accounts belonging to minors from January 2027, and bans mobile phones in high schools. Educational and scientific resources are excluded. Digital Minister and Le Henanf said that if someone is under 15, the account will be closed. Macron called it a major step forward and said France is leading the way in Europe. Australia did this first, for under 16s, in force since December. France is the first European country to follow, and that is what changes the picture. The lawmakers from France Unbowed who voted against it argued the law is unenforceable and that its constitutionality is unclear, and a constitutional review could delay the rollout. Both objections may be right and neither stops the precedent. Every other European government now has a working example in a large member state, and the platforms have to build real age verification for a market they cannot leave. The International Criminal Court removed its chief prosecutor for the first time in its history. On Friday, July 24th, the Assembly of States parties voted 82-13, with 15 abstentions, to remove Karim Khan. Assembly President Pai Karanta said he had committed serious misconduct and a serious breach of duty. The finding concerns a sexual relationship with a subordinate staff member and an attempt to stop her from pursuing her allegations, following an investigation by the UN Office of Internal Oversight Services. Khan denies the allegations and says he will appeal to the Administrative Tribunal of the International Labour Organization. Middle East Eye reports that an independent panel of judges reviewing the same evidence concluded unanimously that it did not establish misconduct, and that the Assembly's bureau proceeded anyway. The arrest warrants his office obtained in 2024 for Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant are unaffected, because only ICC judges can withdraw those. What changes is that member states have now demonstrated they can remove the prosecutor by majority vote, and the court will run without a permanent one while a successor election waits until next year. The Ebola outbreak in eastern Congo is the fastest growing ever recorded, and the vaccine that ended the last era does not work on it. As of July 22, Congo's health authorities reported 1,033 deaths from 2,536 confirmed cases, with 738 people in isolation. The West Africa epidemic of 2014 to 2016 took 8 months to reach 1,000 deaths. This one is caused by the Bundibugyo species, for which there is no approved vaccine and no approved treatment. Several therapeutics are in clinical trials. Chikwiya Hakwizu, who runs WHO's Health Emergencies Program, said 80% of new cases are outside the contact lists and are arriving from unknown chains of transmission, and that WHO modeling suggests the true case count is at least 2 to 4 times what is reported. Uganda contained its own outbreak at 20 cases and 2 deaths and has started the 42-day countdown. A doctor who traveled from Congo tested positive in France in June and recovered. The durable lesson is that the world's Ebola preparedness was built around one species of the virus. The stockpiles, the ring vaccination strategy, and the confidence all belong to the Zaire strain. A different member of the same family has removed all of it. That's what still matters this week.